Woo! That's a really great animation there.
I unironically like it. It
Yeah,
looks like it did in the 90s. Like that is what it looked like.
Why would it look better? Why would it look better?
Well, this is the director's cut, Rutskarn.
If I was the director of this game and I was doing a cut, I'd say make that look a little bit worse.
Oh, hello, dear.
Unless you're a consultant. They bring you in specifically to tell the art department to make things less cool.
Very well, dear.
I found out that the drowned girl.
I have to say, like, honestly, Kathy's design might be the sole exception. Everything else in this game looks very period appropriate. Like, both in terms of suggesting the 90s and in terms of, like, suggesting 90s adventure games. So it's like a very closely observed stylistic representation.
But not the father.
No. He disappeared not long after Lily told
I think I've gone back and forth about this. I think the game it reminds me of the most of visually is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Troubled for years.
Oh, you mean like aesthetically the style of the game, not the design of the universe.
I see. Do you know how I can reach the family?
Not really, dear.
Because like when I think of 90s house, I think of that house from Vanilla Ice's movie Cool as Ice. That house is cool.
There is that.
See you later, Gramps.
Take care, dear.
Goofy's house and the Goofy movie.
Goofy movie is also very 90s. I'm upset. My wife is doing a watch through of all of the Disney movies. I did not know that a Goofy movie is not a Disney movie.
What? It doesn't count?
What?
It is not made by Disney Animation Studios. It is made by their television department.
She's been dead for 2 decades.
The animation is so good, though. I was watching it the other day and I was like, damn, this is like really well animated, actually.
All right, found an address.
Does Nightmare Before Christmas count? Because it was funded by Disney, technically.
It was Miramax when it released, wasn't it? Or Touchstone?
Only because Disney was like afraid of being like, uh-oh, this is too scary for babies.
The fear.
But then it got popular and merchandisable, and they slapped their name on top of it in one of the most, like, cowardly acts of Disney being Disney that I could point to.
Yeah, but then we got the nice overlay for the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, and it is amazing.
Ooh, no.
Alright, the music got real creepy.
I can't imagine.
I have to point out
someone moving inside.
No, go ahead. I was just going to complain about the Haunted Mansion.
55 degrees.
I was gonna say that like the one difference between this game and most of its like of its stylistic peers from the actual contemporary era is that this looks better.
My name's Rain.
That like just not just in like in terms of like higher fidelity or whatever, but like in terms of the assets often were not this good quality, like did not have this much artistic skill behind them.
Questions about your daughter, Lily.
And I started thinking about Beneath the Steel Sky. I'm like, yeah, that had some nice set pieces. And then I clicked it, and I just saw a headline for like,
Lily died.
oh, they're making a sequel to Beneath the Steel Sky, and this is the image searches. I just know this is going to be from like 2014 or something.
Maybe he did. I don't see how
I
that's
think this was like a Kickstarter or something like that everybody teased, and then it came out and it sucked.
Then clearly you have no idea what it's like losing a child. Goodbye.
That is a very large collar that she has.
It's called the Catmobile?
Nice.
That's dorky and I love it. That's great.
Somebody around here is a chain smoker.
Don't make fun of that.
No, it came out in 2020.
Don't make fun of that in this, the year of Batman Forever.
Where Lily Myers met
Right?
Looks like there's a small dock with a couple of boats. I don't have a reason to go down there. I can see someone moving inside.
So, what's the plan here with...
I don't have anything.
Oh,
Go to
cool.
Lakeside Cabin, knock on door. Knock on door again, offer Sue a smoke. And then talk to Nathan. I don't know who Nathan is.
Other kid.
Again.
Is that kid also a ghost?
My smoke's about a half a pack.
Oh, damn. We stared at each other for 10 seconds, and then she closed the door.
Care to join me for a smoke, Mrs. Myers?
Well, I'm gonna have to think about it.
I want to like point out how completely off like the rails we are here at this point. Like we found this newspaper clipping of a girl who died in our grandfather's stuff. And now we're off like bugging the mother of this kid when it could have just been something that like he had like noticed and just saved or something. Like it didn't necessarily have to be something that was important.
Now that's an understatement. Good
This
thing
is an
I have my
interesting
morning
plot
smoke,
point where we
otherwise
basically
would have
need
had
to
a fist
like
fight on our
open
hands.
the door with some nicotine
Yeah.
because she's too
Why
cranky
don't we head
when
inside?
she's
This is also
posing for
very
a cigarette.
nice.
This is just lateral thinking, Batman.
Now, this
She just never
here's
turned
my
the
boy
clipping over, and
Nathan.
on the back there was like a
He's
number
special.
for a lady or something that
and say
like she
hello to
discovered accidental evidence that her grandpa was cheating on her grandma, but she doesn't know that, and so she's just digging into this instead and is completely on the wrong track.
Drawing
Oh yeah? What are you drawing?
the nice red man.
Oh, is her son disabled?
Santa?
No, the nice red man.
Yeah.
Now, what did I say about raising your voice at strangers?
Sorry, Mama. I'll be nice. The red man is nice.
Don't mind him. He gets so absorbed in his drawings thanks to that wild imagination of his, just like his sister.
Nice painting. It's signed LM.
So, you wanted to ask me about Lily?
Yeah. Do you mind telling me what happened when my grandfather came to see you?
Well, he knocked on my door a few years after Lily had passed away. I didn't know Joseph too well myself.
That's a
but
lot
I
of
heard
rugs
it
on the ground. How do you
and the
keep
good
that
he done
clean?
for other people around here.
Yeah, that is a lot of
So I
fucking
let him
rugs,
in.
actually.
He started
That's
asking
what-
a
I
few
mean,
questions
5?
about Lily, like if I
Yeah.
was absolutely sure that
That's
she...
a good
that
point.
it was
I wonder
suicide.
why you would have that many
And what
rugs.
did you say?
The
Also,
truth,
what's that in the corner?
that she was depressed and
Are those
had
bottles?
been for a long time. I had
This
no
is an
Looks like a
doubts about
taxidermied
what happened.
owl.
No, the
Oh,
other
you mean
corner
the
of the room.
Oh, yeah, those are bottles,
Well,
alright.
he was
Or firewood,
weirdly
maybe, for like the
curious
stove.
about
Or
her paintings.
firewood.
Firewood
yeah.
makes more sense, yeah.
Yep, that's one of hers right there on the wall.
I see, it's beautiful. So, in what way was he curious?
He asked if Lily had painted anything odd or strange.
You know what the art style really reminds me of, and this is
But
gonna
I
maybe
let
sound
him
weird,
look at her work.
but like I've been
He
playing
spent
through
some
Ocarina
time
of Time,
browsing through them,
and like all of
and he
the
wrote
not
something
3D
down on a
stuff,
piece
all of the
paper,
pre-rendered
thanked me, and
graphics
left.
look a lot like
Huh.
this in terms of
Any
color
idea
palette
of what
and
he could
like
see?
the level of
Not really.
pixelization.
I had the
That's an interesting
paintings all
point,
lined
color
up.
palette.
Could have been any of them.
Would you mind showing them to
You
me?
don't hear people talk about like
Well,
how
I
color
would if
palettes
I
have changed
could,
a
but
lot.
This is the only one I have left.
I wonder how
I
much
sold
this
the
game
rest many
paid
years
attention to
ago
that.
this weirdo
I know a lot of
art collector.
retro games just do whatever looks good, but back in the day, everybody had, you know,
Tell me
16,
about this
24,
art
32
collector
colors.
person.
You didn't have as many as you do
Rich,
now.
fancy looking, in his 50s or
I don't get a
thereabouts.
sense that this
I'd
is
say
palette
he'd be
limited.
around 70 now
I don't think
if
it's
he
palette
still
limited,
died.
but I think it's
He
drawn
knocked
like a
on that
game that
door
is
one
palette
day with
limited,
a
if
wad
that
of
makes
cash
sense.
in his hand.
Yeah.
It's a study of
$5,000.
palette limited games
He
rendered
wanted
without palette
everything that
limit, is
Lily so much as touched
my
with a
guess.
brush.
Huh. Did he say why?
Nope, but I got
Like, you
the
can see
feeling
on the
most of
stove
that
there
dough
how,
was
like,
his, so he could
There's kind of like some
afford
some
it.
clusters of like
I took the money.
that's a little too greenish, that's a little too reddish, that's a little too like
Did the
all in
stranger
close
give you his
proximity to
name?
kind of give the
No.
impression of brown.
His face was far from
And that kind of looks like
Big nose,
the
bright
sort of
blue
color
eyes,
artifacting you
black
get a lot.
eyes. He had a thick
in
black
games like
mane
this.
turning gray, no beard.
All right, Sue. Thanks.
Are you doing the dishes, Rutsguard?
No, that is a dog scratching
Oh.
it to get
I
comfort.
was gonna say it sounded
So,
like
tell me about Lily's art.
like a retro
It used to
game,
be
like
about
Invaders or something, like Space Invaders,
landscapes.
kind of.
Oh yes,
I just-
I'm
Bright colors.
doing this in a thriving 70s arcade.
But as she drifted further
I just thought a
into
man in a
depression,
like
she
nylon
started
suit was doing
painting
interpretive
horrible
dance behind it.
things. Death and decay.
Spider-Man's there
And the
for
last
some
few
reason.
pieces looked like something
I
out
just
of
like that we
a
all had
movie.
such rich imaginations
awful.
at play.
Did Lily
We
ever get
really
any
do.
recognition for her art?
Not really. Except from the guy
Just
I
like
told
3
you about
alternate
who bought
reality
my
versions.
Mind telling me what Lily was like, Sue?
I'd be happy to. She was Nathan's.
Do you want the list of things you're supposed to ask about, Josh?
Lily was like any
No, I'm
girl
good.
growing up, normal, happy, talking about school, boys, and whatnot. And she and Nathan were close.
I will say, I don't know how many, like, according to Hoyle, puzzles we've run into for this stretch of the game.
On just about anything she could get her hands on. We didn't have
This really has felt more investigative, you know, like talking to people and getting stories. Almost like visual novel level.
Having to use the cigarettes on Sue, I think, feels like a puzzle, because there's the hint out front with the ashtray, and so it's sort of goading you to do that, but you don't know that you're supposed to do that. I just told Josh to do it because I'm looking at a walker.
Drawing became her life. Eventually, her art teacher
That's a good
at
point.
school helped her to get started with oil painting. When Lily was 15.
But like Josh thought for sure there was a puzzle with the calling from the cop face or whatever, the police office, that's what the word is.
I feel like some of this stuff has changed in the director's cut.
Disappearing for long periods of time. She locked herself in when painting. She never used to do that. I tried everything. Counseling, support groups, antidepressants. Nothing worked.
I think one of the things that has pushed me away from traditional adventure games is scenes like this where it's just an exposition dump, and even if the writing is really strong, it's just hard to get that invested in what should be a visual medium when it's just two talking heads rendered in static images and some text going back and forth.
She never killed herself, but well,
and
she
I don't know, I'm real excited by games that maybe try to do different things. Like I'm thinking of like Kentucky Route Zero, or I've been playing a lot of Norco lately. Both of those games are adventure games that like mix things up mechanically to sort of sell you on a place or an idea. And they still have scenes like this where two talking heads talk, but it's not wandering around until you click the right thing on the right thing and your reward is this kind of splurgy dialogue.
Taking it one step at a time.
I don't know. I also recognize that a lot of people like adventure games exactly for this stuff, so.
Oh, he's some big-time business.
I just say that, like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he owns a large
Oh,
company.
I was just gonna say, I only really like games that have a lot of like dialogue like this when it's also a role-playing game and it's fully voiced. And I've picked a different class than most other classes, and I'm a different race, and Solus is there for some
What
reason.
happened to your husband, if you don't mind
You
me
can't
asking?
romance Cullen.
You could say.
I don't know if there are
he didn't
many
quite
games
cope
that
as
fit
well
that
as I did
description.
with what happened
There's
to
what?
Lily. He got himself a death wish after what happened to her. Started drinking and getting into all sorts of trouble. 5 years left for him in the joint now. Been there for 15.
Man, that must be rough for you.
Oh, we're doing just fine without him, aren't we, Nate?
Mama takes good care of us.
Mama sure does.
I guess part of the problem is that in a lot of adventure games, characters like this are treated for utility. Like, we're here for information, not because we want to necessarily
There are some
learn about
divided
Sue as a
opinions
character,
about it.
right? Like, we're here to get the
Yeah.
thing we need to get out of her and then
That
leave,
whole ordeal
and then who cares
happened to
about this
him not
character?
long
And
after he
along the
came.
way, they're going to tell us her whole backstory, but
A week,
that's
maybe,
not
at the
why
most.
we're here. And I feel like this sort of material would work better if we were
think
here
we can
to
help
get to
now.
know her. If there was,
Sure
if the
thing,
focus
Will.
was on character
Come
beat.
back anytime.
So I will say that
Very lifelike.
she's actually fairly
Contrary to
important,
popular
and this
belief,
is
they don't
actually
believe
fairly
in
important to the
owls
plot of the
more than what
game.
they seem.
Tell us whether those are bottles or not.
I can smell something cooking.
Man, he's stuck in his old.
Okay, so
Yet another burial ground. It's an early paint.
I think we've gotten everything
Elk, by the looks of it. They're
we
fairly.
can get here. And we need to find this art collector.
There has to be some way to find out who bought those paintings. Maybe I can jog Sue's memory somehow.
Oh,
It says this is the end of day 1, so I don't know if we have to go back home to start day 2 or not, or if it'll just automatically start.
I will say I tend to get a little bit antsy in adventure games like this if too much time passes before I need to combine something with something else,
Always.
or like zoom in to examine something closely and solve a fiddly puzzle with it.
And no way.
okay,
That's it.
right. Okay, so this is the part where we find out
Paintings,
Charles
he said,
Wade
there's
was
no
the
telling
art
here, but
collector.
There's no mistaking that hair and nose.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, little cat. That's the guy who walked into this cabin with $5,000 in cash.
That's
What
very
was
helpful.
$5,000
Sue,
in cash worth in like 1977?
Another question for the elusive
question.
Mr. Wade.
Damn it. That's gonna be.
I think I'm gonna head off now.
Maybe like 2 trips to
Sure
Disneyland.
thing, little cat. Come back anytime.
No, it's not even 1.
It's getting late.
Okay, end of day 1.
It's $22,000. So yeah.
Ooh.
Man,
That's a trip to Japan.
Damn.
I don't think they spent that on a trip to Japan.
You can.
Hey, you're still up.
Yeah,
I was wondering when you'd show up. How did it go?
You can spend 2,200
Long story.
or
I
22,000.
found out about some stuff.
2,000.
That happened
probably
when I was
spent
a kid.
2,200 too.
200,000.
Wow.
$2,200 trip to Japan.
So
That
what's the plan
sounds
now?
like you're not exactly staying in the finest luxury once you get there.
You just get there and then get back on the plane.
I don't know yet, but I'll figure something out.
What about this
Just
Just
on
Charles
run
the
off
bed
to the
with our
hills.
You
boots
still
on
haven't talked to him?
again.
And that strange bright picture you showed me? Those tapes? Listen, I know this guy.
Eileen, relax. We can talk about it tomorrow, okay? Oh, it's way too late now.
No, I couldn't possibly sleep now. I'm way too excited.
Well, that makes one of us. Nighty.
Good night, cat.
So how far is our
Kathy,
college from
wake up.
Grandma's house?
Ugh,
I think it's
you
like
are so
an hour
lucky there
drive
are
or
no
something like
sharp
that.
objects near this
So we're
bed.
not actually visiting Grandma.
Guess
We
what?
just went
I
to
got
see
an
Grandma.
idea.
Please
Yeah.
tell me it involves you taking a sabbatical.
Haha, so you found all this evidence, right? Pictures, tapes, and stuff?
I guess. Why?
Well, as you know, I have a computer. And I know this hacker guy, Dave, and
Never
Oh,
trust
never
a
mind.
hacker
I'll just
guy
write you
named
a note.
Dave.
you go back to sleep.
Seriously, Eileen, sometimes I just marvel at how your brain works.
Dates in general.
I know, right?
Yeah, just Dave. Davids are worse, but Daves are pretty bad.
That's an interesting logic. Davids are worse.
Yeah, like
sure
a
you wanna do
robber
this, Catherine?
is worse than a
We still
rob,
have
don't you
time, If you
think?
think there's any chance you would
What's a
change your mind.
bob on that spectrum?
I'm sure, Doctor.
Bobs are
Just
great.
get it out of me.
I love Bobs.
But please.
Man,
don't
that's a
tell my
fall
mom.
off.
I'm
You think there's anybody out
sorry
there
to do that.
watching this,
It's the
listening to this
law.
right now, who's just like, you said David, like Daves are bad, and there's somebody who's like David, and they're like, yes.
It's none
Squeak
of her
through.
business. It's my
Nailed
choice
it.
to make.
They're like, Davids
They're
are
like,
worse, and
Enough
they're
shit
like,
going on
fuck.
with her already. This would just add fuel to the fire.
They're like holding a
Honestly,
bloody
there's
knife
nothing
and
I
like
can
they've
do.
got corpses in their
Fine.
fridge.
Let's just get this over with.
She's got me!
Right this way.
Dead to rights. Dave to rights.
She figured it out!
For the
I've
record,
been
my
wrong.
middle name is David.
Oh, and you were around in
Ugh, I
1995.
hate that dream.
Christopher Davy Jones Lock.
Oh God.
That's pretty much time. That's pretty much the episode.
Went to class.
Yep.
I probably should too.
Well,
Nah.
What have we learned here today?
That skipping classes to investigate weird and probably unimportant mysteries is good.
If this game was made in now times, it took place in 2022, it'd be about her making a podcast about this. A true crime podcast.
I like her Burger King floor in
Oh
their
man,
dorm.
you could have it where they're like narrating the whole game as part of the podcast.
You can listen to a podcast that's built for this game.
Has anybody made like a horror movie or game or something about like a true crime podcaster covering an ongoing case where the murderer like actually starts following the podcast?
There's a couple books. There's a couple books for the ladies out there about that.
Oh, strictly for my ladies.
Strictly for the ladies.